Imagine a war fought not just by armies, but by gods and heroes. A war that would shape the fate of entire civilizations, where love, pride, and vengeance collide. The story of the Trojan War is one of betrayal, bravery, and the ultimate destruction of a great city. But what led to this legendary conflict? How did it all begin, and who were the true heroes? Join us as we uncover the dramatic tale of the Trojan War, a battle for honor, love, and survival, where the gods themselves played a deadly game. The Trojan War is one of the most famous conflicts in ancient history, a war that involved not just mortal men but also gods and goddesses, their interventions shaping the fates of entire civilizations. The tale begins with a seemingly insignificant event, a wedding that would spark a series of events culminating in one of the most legendary wars ever told. This is the story of betrayal, heroism, honor, and the tragic consequences of love and pride. It all started at the wedding of Peleus, king of the Myrmidons, and Thetis, a sea nymph. The gods had been invited to this magnificent celebration, but one goddess was deliberately left out, Eris, the goddess of strife. Enraged by the insult, Eris decided to sow chaos. She tossed a golden apple into the midst of the gods, inscribed with the words, "For the fairest." This single act would spark an argument between the most powerful goddesses, each vying for the title of fairest. Hera, the queen of the gods, offered power and wealth. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, promised unparalleled strategic skill and victory in battle. But Aphrodite, the goddess of love, made an offer that no mortal could resist. She promised the love of the most beautiful mortal woman in the world, Helen of Sparta, to the prince who chose her. Paris, a young Trojan prince, was chosen to decide who the fairest was. He ultimately selected Aphrodite, and in return, Helen, already married to Menelaus, king of Sparta, was swept away by Paris. This caused a rift that would lead to war. Menelaus, furious at the abduction of his wife, called upon his brother Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae. Together, they summoned all the Greek kings and heroes who had once sworn an oath to protect Helen. The Greek coalition was formed, and they set sail for Troy, seeking to reclaim Helen and restore their honor. Upon their arrival, the Greeks, led by Agamemnon and his mighty warriors, including Achilles, the greatest hero of the age, found themselves facing the towering walls of Troy. The Trojans, led by Hector, prince of Troy, defended their city with great courage. Hector, a man of honor and duty, stood as the last line of defense for his city, his people, and his family. He was a warrior unmatched by any other save for Achilles. The war, which began with small skirmishes, soon escalated. The Greeks launched wave after wave of attacks against the city, but Troy's walls were impregnable, and the Trojans fought with fierce determination. Achilles, whose rage and pride were as legendary as his fighting skill, became a key figure in the conflict. However, Achilles' wrath, triggered by a quarrel with Agamemnon over a captured woman, Briseis, led him to withdraw from the battle. Without their greatest warrior, the Greeks began to suffer heavy losses. Despite the absence of Achilles, the Greeks fought on. Patroclus, Achilles' dearest companion and friend, could not bear to watch his fellow soldiers fall. He begged Achilles to lend him his armor so that he might lead the Greeks in battle and restore their hope. Reluctantly, Achilles agreed, and Patroclus, though a capable warrior, was no match for the might of Hector. In a tragic turn of events, Hector killed Patroclus in battle, and the Greeks were plunged into despair. When Achilles learned of Patroclus's death, he was consumed by grief and rage. His sorrow was overwhelming, and he swore vengeance upon Hector. With his wrath rekindled, Achilles rejoined the battle, now more determined than ever to avenge the loss of his friend. The gods themselves could not deny Achilles' fury, and they turned the tide of the war in his favor. In a dramatic showdown between the two greatest warriors, Achilles and Hector faced each other in combat. Hector, despite his courage and strength, was no match for Achilles. With a fatal blow, Achilles struck down Hector, and the Greeks rejoiced. However, Achilles' actions, particularly the desecration of Hector's body, were not without consequences. Achilles dragged Hector's lifeless body behind his chariot in a display of disrespect. The Trojans, led by Hector's father, King Priam, were devastated. Priam, a king of great dignity, could not bear to see his son dishonored. He went to Achilles in the dead of night, imploring him to return Hector's body for a proper burial. Moved by Priam's grief and the love he had for his son, Achilles relented. He allowed Hector's body to be returned to Troy, where it was given a proper funeral, one that would honor his valor and sacrifice. Despite the loss of their greatest hero, the Trojans continued to defend their city. The Greeks too suffered great losses, including the death of Achilles, who was struck down by an arrow shot by Paris, guided by the god Apollo, which found its mark in Achilles' vulnerable heel. Achilles' death was a turning point for the Greeks, and the Trojans saw a glimmer of hope. However, the war was far from over. The Greeks, now in a desperate struggle, knew that they needed to find another way to breach the walls of Troy. It was Odysseus, the cunning king of Ithaca, who devised a brilliant and treacherous plan. He ordered the construction of a massive wooden horse hollowed out to hold a group of Greek warriors. The Greeks then pretended to retreat, leaving behind the horse as a supposed offering to the gods, a symbol of their surrender. The Trojans, believing they had won, brought the horse inside the city walls as a symbol of their triumph. That night, while the Trojans slept, the Greek soldiers inside the horse emerged, and the Greek army, which had secretly returned under the cover of darkness, launched a surprise attack. The Trojans, caught off guard and unprepared, fought bravely, but their efforts were in vain. The Greeks overran the city, and the once great civilization of Troy was reduced to ashes. King Priam was slain, and the royal family of Troy was either killed or taken captive. Andromache, Hector's wife, was left to mourn the loss of her husband and her city. Aeneas, Hector's cousin and a survivor, fled Troy with his father, Anchises, on his back, leading the remaining Trojans to safety. This would mark the end of the war, but the consequences of the Trojan War would resonate for generations to come. The Greeks, though victorious, paid a heavy price. The gods had not forgotten the bloodshed, and Odysseus, the hero of Troy, was cursed by the god Poseidon, who sought vengeance for the Greeks' destruction of Troy. Odysseus' journey home would take him an additional 10 years, filled with trials, monsters, and divine retribution. Despite the fall of Troy, the legacy of the war lived on. The heroes, the gods, and the people involved in this legendary conflict would forever be etched in history. The Trojan War, with its betrayals, acts of bravery, and the ultimate fall of a great city, serves as a reminder of the power of pride, love, revenge, and the consequences of war. The tale of the Trojan War and the lessons it imparts is one that still captivates the human imagination. From the tragedy of Hector to the cunning of Odysseus, the courage of Achilles to the deceit of the Greeks, the Trojan War remains a story of both heroism and heartache. It is a story of gods and men, of the rise and fall of civilizations, and of the timeless truths that endure long after the dust of war has settled. The Trojan War changed the course of history, and its lessons echo throughout time. From betrayal to bravery, it shows the costs of conflict and the consequences of pride and revenge. The warriors, the gods, and the tragedies, all left behind a legacy that still resonates with us today. And yet, despite all that was lost, the story of Troy continues to captivate us, reminding us of the timeless nature of heroism and the fallibility of even the mightiest civilizations. As you reflect on this epic saga, consider: what lessons can we learn from the Trojan War? Is our world too bound by similar forces of pride and love? The answers may be more relevant than we think. If you enjoyed this story of betrayal, bravery, and the fall of Troy, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more epic tales from history and myth. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest videos so you never miss out on the next adventure. Thank you for watching, and remember, history is not just a story of the past, it's a lesson for the present and future.